We are actually glad that we have amongst us, finally, revered Swami Atmashraddhanandaji Maharaj amongst us. Maharaj is the secretary of Ramakrishna Mission Ashram, Kanpur, and it was unfortunate due to some train delay, Maharaj could not be here before, but finally he is here with us, and we would like to welcome him here on the stage with us so that he can accompany us here on the stage. And we would also like to welcome here on stage revered Swami Jayantanandaji Maharaj, Secretary Ramakrishna Mission Vidyapith Deoghar, to felicitate Atmashraddhanandaji Maharaj. We are now felicitating revered Swami Atmashraddhanandaji Maharaj, Secretary Ramakrishna Mission Ashram, Kanpur. We would like to welcome Atmashraddhanandaji Maharaj for his deliberation and overview of basics of Indian culture. Maharajji, if you please. Thank you.
Swami Jayantanandaji Maharaj, and to all the monks, Swami Vidyapith, Swami Japasiddhanji, other monastics who are sitting here, right, and all the faculty members, all Brahmachari Maharaj and all the faculty members, and dear students. I regret my late coming, but that was not in my hand. That was due to railways. So in our scriptures, we have three types of obstacles: Adidaivika, Adibhautika, Adhyatmika. So this was mostly Adibhautika. What it is, I will explain to you. Let me first begin with a small prayer to Thakurma Swamiji. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. I missed listening to the talks by our dear Swamijis here, but I don't have to regret much because it is there recorded. So hopefully I shall be able to see it when it is uploaded. I said there are three types of obstacles. One obstacle is called Adhidaivika, which means related to those factors, those forces in our life, which kind of are celestial, heavenly. Suppose you are going and there is a strong earthquake, or there is a big storm. Right now in Chennai there is storm. So there is a lot of rain and schools are closed. Our India is so big, in different parts different things are happening. When it is very hot here, it may be cold somewhere else, and so on. So this is called, in the Vedic understanding, that all gods are shining beings, devas. So because they are shining beings, so they are very subtle, they can move around here and there, and they control the forces of nature. So that's called Adidaivika. Adidaivika means that which is related with devatas. So we all know this. Sometimes it is very hot, or some natural calamity happens. Suddenly a volcanic eruption is there. Similarly, there is another one obstacle in life, obstacle as well as our struggle in life. That is Adibhautika. Adibhautika refers to that which is by other living beings. The word bhuta does not mean ghost only. It means living beings. So adhibhautika, which means related to other living, the problem or struggle created by other living beings. Like you have problem of, like I came late by railway. So it could be quite possible because of some human reason I am late. Suppose you are going somewhere and there is a road blockage. Why? There are some people who are demonstrating somewhere. They are protesting, so the road is closed. So that is called adhibhautika, obstacle. Similarly, there is adhyatmika obstacle, which means the obstacle which is created because of us, because of me, because of the person. So maybe the person fell sick, he had fever or he had some other issue, or maybe he was unwilling or some other reason. So these three type of obstacles are mentioned in our scriptures. So I'm very glad here that I could finally make it, and I'm here to share with you a few thoughts on Indian culture. Already you have heard about one of the foundations of Indian culture, about Sanskrit, or Sanskritam, or Sanskrit as we say in English. You have heard, I came last, I was listening to Vidyapith's talk, and he was mentioning about various scholars who were connected somewhere with the Ramakrishna mission or with the movement, and how they were so learned and how they cultivated Sanskrit in their life. Of course, they went beyond only dry learning. So earlier also you have heard Vidyapith also about Sanskrit only. So this whole function is about how the role of Sanskrit in our life or in promotion of Sanskrit. It's a very important subject. You have studied Sanskrit in your maybe 9th, 10th, or a little more, maybe some of you would go. The word Sanskrit means what? And we are using the word Sanskriti, culture. What does it mean? The word Sanskriti, it comes from the same root as the Latin word called culture. Almost same. So what is the meaning of culture? Culture means that which is cultivated. Like you have taken food, you took rice and vegetables and dal. That's all cultivated on fields. Some farmer has done that. It cannot be created online. It has to be created on the field. So it's a culture. Similarly, there are other things in life which we cultivate. Not only, say, agriculture, not only that, not only horticulture or floriculture, but there's a culturing of our language. Refined language, refined way of speaking. That's called the most refined of, kind of refined language is called Sanskrit. It has been very much well cultured. You know, in Sanskrit there are no ways of giving any abuses. Only some sentences here and there. Like somebody becomes angry and he can use some bad word. In Sanskrit there are no bad words. Why? Because it is so cultured. It is so very refined. Swami Ranganathanji Maharaj, who was the 13th president of the Ramakrishna order, once recalled his childhood incident. He said when he was very young, he uttered some word which he had picked up from a friend. Not a good word. And it came to the notice of his mother. So mother called him and said, "Look, my child, you have spoken like that, but remember your tongue, jiva, is the seat of Saraswati. So never use a bad word. Don't dirty your tongue." And remember, he was such a great man that he took it so seriously. He said, that has been my guiding principle in my life. Never utter a word which would be, which would cause any harm to anybody or disrespect to anybody. So that's called Sanskriti, to cultivate. So what do we cultivate in Sanskriti? So you have first of all Prakriti. You have something very gross. You have a piece of stone and it's a gross, it's Prakriti. then you refine it. How do you refine it? Through your hands, through your mind. You think of a image. Suppose you think of the image of Lord Shiva. You think of that image in that stone. You just go on focusing on the features of the Lord Shiva which you have in your mind. And then what do? If you are a good sculptor, you know how to make an image. So you just focus on the image. It could be Shiva, it could be any of the figures that you want to make. Suppose you just want to have an elephant. Just focus on the elephant and tell your hands to remove all else which is not elephant. Take a hammer and chisel, go on removing those things which are not elephant. So what remains is elephant. That's called making of an image. Same way in our Sanskriti, we have certain ideals, especially in Indian or Bharatiya Sanskriti, we have certain ideals. In those ideals we keep them and go on chiseling ourselves according to that. One of them, the greatest of that, is Bhagwan Ram, Ramayana. Somehow everyone is acquainted with it that no, Bhagwan Ram ne aisa kaha tha. उनके जीवन में ऐसा हम देखते हैं. A famous quote from the Ramcharitmanas about truthfulness. रघुकुल रीति सदा चली आई, प्राण जाई पर वचन न जाए. So that's an ideal, that's a setting up of a standard, a benchmark on what is called truthfulness. And truthfulness is not just speaking truth when you are asked about something, but also keeping one's promises. So Dashratha's promise was there, which Rama kept it up. That is the greatness of those who are sticking to truth. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, truthfulness is the greatest of all austerities, greatest of the spiritual practice that you can take up in the modern age. Always speak truth, always live truth, always in your actions, let there be truthfulness. So this is an ideal before us, and when we say we are having the Indian culture, we are talking about the basis of Indian culture, we have to look at this thing, that we have first of all an ideal, a benchmark, a something according to which we are chiseling ourselves. We are making our personality, our society, our institutions, our family, our social relationships, our politics, everything has to be influenced by some higher ideal. Now if you look at the word culture, Sanskriti, there are so many types of Sanskritis in this word. You have the African Sanskriti, you have the Arabian Sanskriti, you have the Greece Sanskritis, and so many types of Sanskritis are there. All of these Sanskritis have certain ideals, and they are trying to chisel it out. They are trying to live up to that ideal in their own way. In India, it has always been Adhyatma Vidya, which is the ideal before the Indian mind. Adhyatma Vidya, which means the science of inner man, or science of knowing the truth which is behind all of us. Now if you ask a person, who are you? You make him stand and ask him, what are you doing? You please explain yourself. Now if you say from a very spiritual angle, from a very practical angle, you'll say, I am a class 10 student or class 12 student. You can say that. And then further you may explain that I speak this language at home, or this is what I desire to become in future. I can speak in good Hindi, or I can speak in good English, or I want to learn Sanskrit, so this is my quality in life. You can further say, I am the citizen of this great nation, India. You can also say, I am the son of so and so. These are the names of my parents. You can also say that I am a human being. These are all introductions about you. These are all the things which you can actually say to introduce yourself. Now just think over it. Are we just this much? This is one question which comes to a very refined mind. Am I only this mixture of these various identities? For my practical purposes, I have these identities. In fact, your roll number is your identity also. Your Aadhaar card is also your identity. You buy a ticket to go to some place, that ticket for time being is your identity. But these identities are subject to change. You can't say, I am a boy, I am a class 10 boy all your life. I was class 10 boy, but you can become later class 11, 12, you can do a PhD, you can become still more something, you become a great scholar, but none of these identities are our real identities. This is what Adhyatma Vidya tells us. It tells us, look deep within you, there is some divine principle. And this was discovered in India. So when we speak of Indian culture, we are actually speaking of the Vedic culture. We are speaking of the Upanishads. We are speaking of the Mahabharata, of the Ramayana, where these great Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita's principles have been illustrated. You know what is illustrated? Something which you, for instance, we said truthfulness. Where is it written that we should speak truth? It is there in the Upanishad. Satyam vada dharmam chara. Very clearly it is written there. You should follow dharma. You should, not only that, further in the Mundaka Upanishad it is written, Satyameva jayate. Truth alone triumphs. So you go back, you will find it is the Upanishads, our Adhyatma Vidya, which is somewhere influencing you. When your parents come, when your mother and father come to see you, or when you go home to meet them, do you touch their feet? You say, Amma, Mummy, मैं आ गया. प्रणाम करते हैं ना बहुत से लोग. क्यों करते हैं? Again, you go back to the Upanishads. There it is written, Matrudevo bhava, Pitrudevo bhava. Mata devata जैसे होती है, पिता देवता जैसे होते हैं. So you will find somewhere it is connected deep within our spiritual message of the Upanishads. And again, our scriptures, we have got for a very long journey of Upanishads with us, a long journey of scriptures with us. We have the Shrutis, the Upanishads. We have the Smritis, where these things have been put in a modern context. Like we have Manu Smriti, Yagyavalkya Smriti, Raghu Smriti, so many Smritis are there. But these Smritis keep changing. Again, quoting Swami Ranganathanji Maharaj, he used to use a word, there is changing values in life are there. He says, eternal values for a changing society. There are some eternal values. So Indian culture stands on some eternal values. Today, the world over, people are looking towards the India as a whole. In that Indian culture also comes. India is becoming more and more strong, a strong economy, $1 trillion economy. Then you have our political power, or the power of the military, or power of the science. We have gone to Chandrayaan. How many countries in the world have gone Chandrayaan? So there is something that is happening in India which is as if there is a rising. Along with that, there has to be an understanding about Indian culture which sustains this growth, which makes this growth happen. Because if you look at your life, there are two things very clear to you. One is that you have got your intellect. पूछते ना क्लास में कितने marks आए तुम्हारे, what's the number of how many marks you have got, which means there is intellect being referred to. तुम्हारी बुद्धि, तुम्हारा discipline, तुम्हारा concentration, it's all being asked there. Similarly, what you want to do, did you get admission in IIT, are you trying for IIT admission? They can again ask that. After you get IIT, suppose you finish your BTech and then say, I want to do PhD and then postdoc, I'll go to America, I'll do my postdoc there. ये सब dreams जितने हैं, आसपास सब एक चीज देखें तो science, एक बुद्धि. Around us there is a manifestation of बुद्धि. अब यहाँ खड़े हैं, यहाँ पे इतनी सुंदर light लगी है. I could come, walk in, speak something. If it was not there, my voice would not reach you. It's all because of science and technology. But the point is science and technology everything in life? Along with science and technology, within our personality and life, there is something else. And that something else, where emotions are there, where our mind is also very important, what we call as our psychology, it is there that we find the role of culture. Some of the very well-known scientists in the world have having their background from, they are Jews. Einstein was a Jew. Enrico Fermi was a Jew. Many others. Even in America, a good number of the scientists, almost 50% or even more, they are from the Jewish background. They have got their cultural values very strong. Similarly, in India, we have very, very strong cultural values. The other day, I was seeing a film or a small recording of Harvard University distribution of prizes after some graduation ceremony. So the director or the chairman of some group is standing and he is giving the things to students who have become the recipients. One by so many recipients come. Suddenly one Indian comes. He receives it and without his own knowledge, he touches the feet of the giver and goes. Everybody is looking at him. For us it looks very normal, but it has come from our culture. So culture is in everything, in our behavior, in our dance. Not only folk dance, we have some classical dances. We have Bharatanatyam, Kathak. They are all based on some solid principles. There is a great Natya Shastra of Bharata. There are so many mudras, so many ways things are explained. Similarly, you have got this culture, our Indian culture is in music. We have the Saptaswaras. All the sounds have been divided into seven notes. They have all been studied. So the culture was very much emphasized in our growth as a spiritual person. Down the centuries, there are two things. Just a day before yesterday, I was in Sangam in Allahabad. So there three rivers meet, that two, Ganga and Yamuna, and Gupta or Supta Saraswati. So there we were discussing, we were a group of monks. So we were discussing, look, this sacredness of water, taking bath in a river, it is unique to India, unique to Hinduism, unique to Bharatiya Parampara. Then I remembered one lady, an Indian, who had gone to, I think Egypt or Egypt, I think there. She said, I was passing by and then nearby I saw the river Nile was flowing. So I suddenly, because of my sanskaras, I said, let me go and touch the river. We go and Gangaji is there, take this and put little on our head. So she said, and then they said, where is the ghat? They said, there are no ghats on this part of India or this part of the world. There are no ghats on the rivers there because there is no going and taking water. And why water? He said again, because water is considered a purifying factor. Similarly, Agni. You see, Agni is so important again. There is it gives light. The very first verse of the Rig Veda speaks about Agni as the Purohita, as the priest of the Devatas. It's a very subtle power. Agni is everywhere, God is everywhere, but is manifest in some particular places. So Agni is considered purifying because it is light, it burns. In the Bhagavad Gita, Jnana or knowledge or self-knowledge is compared to Agni. Jnana Agni Sarva Karmani. It just removes, Bhasmasat Kurute Arjuna. It removes all the impurities. So if you want to understand the culture which we call as Indian culture, there's one more very important factor that's very, very inclusive. Our culture is very inclusive. Why? Again, Swami Vivekananda, when he returned from the West, he gave a series of lectures. So one of the lectures, rather more than one lecture, he mentions that in the Rig Veda, one famous sentence is there, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. Truth is one and it can be called by different names. By different names, same thing can be called. So it was a very great discovery. Swami Vivekananda said this, the whole line of thinking of the Indian mind changed because of the discovery of this one truth. You won't understand this here because we don't have that comparison. We don't have a context. You come across with people who say, my way alone is true. Then you understand, oh, when I say that there are so many ways to the same truth, it is something very unique to my culture. something unique to my culture, which says I accept, because truth can be achieved from different angles, from different ways. Indian culture has got strong spiritual basis. This we should always bear in mind. But then there are also many superstitions which creep over the years. They may not be really anything to do with Indian culture. Over the years, for some reason, something has come up. Somewhere somebody faced some problem, he devised his own solution, and then it becomes a practice. It may not be really a practice. There are many things related to the way people get married, which may not be really Vedic, which may be because of the local things have come up. So we have to first learn to separate that which is changing and that which is eternal. So Indian culture has got some eternal values and certain changing values. These changing values, they will keep changing. They will keep coming with newer and newer versions. For instance, earlier there were no flights, so we would not travel by flight. But now there is a need to go by flight. You go by flight. So this is a very important point to remember. It may sound it's something so normal, but see, Swami Vivekananda went to the West, and he had to go by ship. It was such a historic thing. In those days, no monk went outside India, because they said crossing the water was considered not very sacred. It was considered something which you should not do. Kala pani cross nahi karna. And when Swami Vivekananda returned, when he returned to Kolkata, he had to face some problems because of that, because he has crossed that waters. But these are things which keep changing. Those very people who were against it later on understood that these were not the actual things we should focus on. Swami Vivekananda has carried the Indian culture to the West. Now in the West we have so many temples, so many Indian institutions. There are so many things related to India available there. That's all because it was inaugurated by Swami Vivekananda. One is Samskriti. From Prakriti, Samskriti. But if we are not careful, our Samskriti can become a Vikriti also. What is Vikriti? To destroy something which is refined. So we go to our old mountains, our old temples. Especially somewhere in south, you go huge temples. Sometimes in some monuments you will find people have defaced those things. They have written something. They have left a message somewhere which is not correct. You are actually defacing somebody's hard work. Some artist took up his chisel and worked so many days and created this piece of architecture or piece of beauty, and now you are taking and simply going on destroying it. That Vikriti should not come in our way. Finally, I will place before you a very, very important idea, and with that I will close. We are speaking of culture, we are speaking of Sanskriti. What is the ultimate purpose of being a cultured person? A man with cultured attitude, cultured language, cultured behavior, cultured language in various ways. Sahitya comes in so many ways. Cultured dance which is cultured, nritya, or cultured music. What is the purpose of all this? We had one great monk of the Ramakrishna mission. His name was Swami Ashramanandaji. He used to say, if we take spirituality as the aim of human life, ultimately, we pass through different stages, but ultimately spiritual realization is the goal of life. He says, most of us are not ready for it. Man is too gross. He can only think of money, he can think of name and fame and position. He can think of having nice food, he can think of moving around. Almost very little he is separate from or different from, almost like an animal life. Only that much he knows, nothing more than that. So he says, first of all, we have to culture the mind before we can reach that highest purpose of human life. And how do we culture the mind? He says, first we begin from the outside. We refine the things around us. And then slowly, as our mind becomes refined, cultured, more sukshma, more samskrita, in Shankaracharya, the great Shankaracharya, he has written many commentaries, explanations called bhashyas on different scriptures, especially on the Upanishads. In many places in those bhashyas, he uses a word, he says, samskritatmanaha, those who are very pure, those who have been cultured, to them this teaching should be given, because then they will understand it. It's just like you want to study integral calculus and you are in class 3. They will say, please first prepare yourself. You may have heard, you are very, very preliminary in your understanding and your skills of mathematics. As you grow, as you understand certain basics, then you can do this calculus, which is very advanced type, or even more than calculus you can do. Similarly, if you have to think of that spiritual goal, we speak of moksha, we speak of bhakti, parabhakti. These are the terms used in our scriptures for spiritual realization. So if you think of that, for that, first of all, a person should culture himself. For that, certain practices were given, like pujas were given. Sandhya Vandanam somebody is doing. Somebody is following certain principles in life. Why for? To culture his mind, to purify his mind. Once he purifies, cultures, refines his mind, he becomes ready for something higher. You will find, as all of you, all my young friends here, those who are now, those who are in class 12 or class 10 to graduate and go further for your studies, you will find, even among the students, there is a understanding of culture. Some people are so gross. They cannot think of anything refined. You come from the Deoghar or any of the Ramakrishna mission institutions, you will have a certain cultural background. Some Swamiji comes, you fold your hands and say Swamiji Namaste, or you make pranam to him. Some temple comes, you are passing by, you know how to go to a temple, you remove the chappals aside. This also is an important thing. In Singapore, the government had organized a trip for students as to how to visit a Hindu temple. To leave your chappals aside, wash your hands, with great respect you go and offer the deity. You don't stand there as if you're looking at an exhibition. Oh, acha, wo Shivji hai. Not like that. You have to hold your hands with great regard, offering yourself to that divine power which is the creator, which is the sustainer, into which everything dissolves. To that power I am bowing down, that creativity. Yesterday we had a small event at IIT Kanpur where this question was asked: do you believe in God? Now, this is a question. And we all have a very personal journey to that. Do you believe in God? Then the answer that was given was that, look, it's a personal thing whether you believe in God or not, but common sense says that there has to be a power behind so much of creativity, so many laws. We know the laws of physics, we are studying the laws of chemistry, but we should also know who is the maker of the laws, who makes these laws happen. So we begin our journey from a very gross thing. From Swami Vivekananda, in one of his writings, he says, as a child, we are almost like covering up everything which a whole humanity has to cover. We are like so very gross. A child may simply take it and put it in his mouth without any, what we call as manners. Slowly he is given training by his parents, by his elders. Somebody comes at home, he says, hey, go and get up and greet them. These are all very important things. The cultural refinement, it makes you intellectually also very strong. This is called in modern times as emotional intelligence. Famous book is there on emotional intelligence. So emotionally, if you have to culture yourself, which is very important, just having intellect is not sufficient. It's important, but it's not sufficient. So cultural refinement brings peace in your life. Otherwise, what happens? A person gets into job and gets a lot of money, and he does not know what to do with money except to just enjoy things which are of senses. Nothing more than that he knows. But if he's same person, if he is cultured, he can use make a much better use of whatever resources he gets into. So let us remember these few aspects of the Indian culture and the basis of Indian culture. There are a number of books which have been published from the Ramakrishna mission. We have the Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, which has brought out almost 9 volumes of the cultural heritage of India. If any one of you seriously wants to study that, can make a reference to that. Then there are other books also. So this has been, Sri Ramakrishna himself was a very embodiment of Indian culture. So if you read his biography, if you read his personality, through that you will find, you understand what is Indian culture. So once again, thank you very much to Swami Jayantanji and our Maharaj, Divya Sudanji Maharaj, and all others for invitation. And thank you for listening. Namaste.